All right, so I've made a couple of changes that I think probably cleaned the deck up, just tightened up the mana base a little bit and the main deck a little bit more. So what I did was I took out, I've been playing around with card slots. I took out, as you may recall, I took out Necropotence, I put in Sword of Fire and Ice. I'd rather have my opponent pay the life to give me cards. And when I made that switch, it allowed me to take out Urborg. So at first I put in Adventurous Fair thinking I would need more life. The other thing that I did was I made room to put in a Johnny Vengeant, also in pursuit of more life. But what I've realized is that Batterskull, Jete, and Breya is probably enough between the three of them to where life is not like we're doing fine. The life total, the loss from 40 to 30 is balanced by the power of life gain that we picked back up by adding Batterskull into the deck. This card should have been in the deck the whole time. So, with that in mind, I went ahead and took Adventurous Fair back out and I added a fourth island. So now I've got the split, two snow and two basic islands, two basic snow and two basic regular islands, so that I can adapt if my opponent has, for example, Snowlands and the imprint card that's a mana flare for Snowlands. Then I can take a feed off of that if he's doing it with blue. So I like that split better. I like having four islands for land tax, and I also like having another blue source, not only for Vedalken Shackles, but also just for the initial game, the early game. And and because I didn't need the life gain from a Johnny, I didn't think I took it out for a card that does what a Johnny does, only much better, and with a easier to handle casting cost, you can cheat it into play with something like War of Invention. That card being old school, gorgeous artwork, Icy Manipulator. Douglas Schuler's art is fantastic. So I've always been a fan of that thing. Anyway, Icy Manipulator in the deck is another way to shut off permanents. It answers creatures who have Sword of Feast and Famine or Fire and Ice equipped, which Breya cannot block, actually, because it's all four colors. One of the colors always overlaps with the swords, no matter what sword they have. Icy can stop creatures like that. But also, the main thing is Icy breaks Winter Orb parity. It allows you to single-handedly to for one mana investment, you get all of your, because they fixed Winter Orb, you can, to function the way it's supposed to, you can get all of your lands untapped using an Icy Manipulator, and that is a pretty good thing, along with just the general flexibility it has and the ability to disrupt blue mages and make it very hard for them to keep up enough mana to counterspell. Because you can tap one of their lands on their turn and then on your turn and then move into a new phase and cast a spell. So it's all really good stuff. And I like Icy, so we're going to leave it in here for a while and see how that works out. Incidentally, the story about Winter Orb, I actually complained to Mark Rosewater. It's the only time I've ever gone on Twitter in my life. I made an account specifically to talk to Mark Rosewater on Twitter and bitterly complained about Winter Orb. So I have no idea if that made a difference, but I made a pretty strong case for it. And then I actually ran into him a second time in person at one point. Where I was able to make the case in person a second time. I don't know if you remembered that we had talked twice, but after that second time where I spoke with him in person, Winter Orb got fixed. So it may have been a coincidence, or it may have been a very cool thing where they actually listened to the historical precedence of the card and were willing to make an adjustment. So if that was what happened, I definitely would thank him if I ever see him again. So anyway, moving on, I've got a number of great games for you to check out today. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and turbo through all these games, including the losses and including games where I did not have the configuration I have now, but you can kind of see the deck morph as we go through these games. I tried a number of different things. When I was adjusting the mana base at one point, I went up to 32 lands, and rather than run four basic islands, I ran three plus the blue black and blue white Prairie Stream, and the other one, the ones that come into play tapped unless you have two basics, but count as lands to have more fetch targets. I decided that although I actually had a game where I ran out of fetch targets, and it's the last video as a matter of fact. The chances of that happening are super rare, and it didn't actually affect the outcome, and so I was overreacting by adding those bad lands, those bad tap lands into play, into the deck rather. So instead, that's how I ended up where I'm at. But you'll see those lands come out in these games, and you'll see a few other things, and I'll kind of point out as we go. So first of all, here is a major problem with the format at 30 life. This is my first game, my first loss actually with the Breya deck in quite some time. So I had to mulligan, but I mulliganed into a hand that looks fantastic. Look at this. Winter Orb, land tax, scroll rack combo. Of course, I have Inventor's Fair and not an island, and I think that's going to end up punishing me quite a bit. But I'm definitely keeping this. So I put Mana Drain on top. My opponent leads off with Serra Ascendant. Holy smokes. At 30 life, this is so absurd. It shaved 2 turns off of the time that you have to react. And I will save you the trouble of watching this game because this right here killed me. I don't find an answer and I die. By the time I even could find an answer, I was already out of life. Like there's just no way. There was just no way to deal with this. You either have an answer immediately or game's over. You know, like if I had Lightning Bolt and I could bolt his face, it might do something. I mean, if I was going first and I had a land and then I had another land and I were playing the card Fire Ice, then in theory I could do fire, one to him and one to the Serra Ascendant, shrink it and kill it. But I would have to have Fire and Ice right away. I would have to be going first. This card is just stupid in a 30 life format. This card needs to go immediately, or they should just make the life totals 29 because this is completely insane and just not fun at all. So anyway, he played Serra Ascendant. Woo! Nothing else he did in that game mattered, and nothing else I did in that game mattered. It was just a complete, just dumb game. So here you can see I was testing out Diabolic Intent. Somebody had suggested it, so I went out and picked one up to try it out. I'm playing against Yidris, Maelstrom Wanderer now. So early game development, I'm just going for consistent land drops, getting my colors. I'm set up with a Dak Faden and a Disenchant. I have Scroll Rack to get rid of one of them if it turns out that I don't have any targets. He runs out a Maul Drifter. I'm not going to bother countering a Maul Drifter when he actually has to discard off of that. So I'm just going to go straight into Tezzeret and Orb. Dead. He gives up, which he should. There's very little he can do here. And if he did untap and play something like Soul Ring, he was about to lose it to Dak Faden and then scoop. So very simple, straightforward game there. He tapped out, but he decided he wanted to play me again because perhaps it was a fluke or perhaps he can get his revenge. So I have to mulligan the first hand. I decided the second hand is too slow. I mulligan that away, I believe. Yep. Into this hand, and I decide I'm going to keep it. Super risky, but we're going to go for it. He's still playing Yidris. So I have Winter Orb on top, which I can shuffle away if I want to. I see a Soul Ring, so I am shuffling that orb away. And now I'm in a super huge... I have like no cards at all. I am so in trouble. So I just go get Mana Drain hoping he'll give me a target, and he plays Maul Drifter. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'll take 5 mana. Thanks. So in this turn, I'm able to go get Trinket Mage, Trinket into Soul Ring into Factor Fiction with a 1 mana floating, take a Wasteland. He missed a land drop, waste him out, and that's it. He scoops and he sends me a message, I can't beat you. Well, you probably can, but you shouldn't do me a favor of handing me 5 mana when you know I have Mana Drain. Anyway, I guess he was digging for land though, so I mean I kind of understand, but still, this game was out of... He was right to scoop here. He was going to do nothing this turn. He had no land, and then after that, we're going to brainstorm, shuffle away the Drek, and pressure him, and I've got tremendous mana and board advantage. So kind of an amazing game considering I mulliganed 3 times as it was. Or no, I mulliganed twice and then missed a gold, so I was down 3 cards already. Anyway, this guy's playing, I don't know, some big stupid dragon. It doesn't matter. So I keep a reasonable hand. It's not great. He leads off with Forest and does nothing, so I strip his Forest because it's quite possible that he's got a 2-drop that requires like a rampant growth effect, and if I can keep him off of green and a colorless, he might just lose the game, and that's exactly what happens. He draws his card. I guess in fact, it looks like he may have kept his only Forest, draws and concedes immediately to the strip mine, so that's fine with me. I think I got strip mined 11 times in the last game and did not concede. But if you want to concede to strip mine on turn one, I'm fine with that. And occasionally, there certainly are hands where it probably is game over, which is what I tried to do there. So Magic Online is losing its mind. Come on, Magic Online, you can do it. Oh my goodness, this is bad. What is going on here? I'm just trying to play some Magic. Sort of. Replay some Magic. Holy moly. So I apologize. It looks like I may give it another moment, see if it recovers. Otherwise, I'm just going to close and reopen Magic. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to do that. There's my son. About a year ago when he was 2. All right. Posing for the internet. Come on, Magic. So hopefully we'll get logged in fairly quickly here. I believe OBS is still running. Yes? Yes. So at least we're still recording. And I will get logged in fairly quickly. I don't know. Maybe it was good. I'd been playing for a little while, so maybe it was good to have Magic crash only because it should run a little bit cleaner. I believe we're about to play PSU Fan. So PSU, is that a team or is that PlayStation Universe or something else? I don't know. Presumably it's something cool though, since he is a fan. Come on, you can do it. Even that woman in the Modern Masters picture, did you see her looking down like, wow, this client sucks. Okay, anyway. Okay, let's get the deck back up first as it stands, if it will load. Okay, there we go. And now back to game history. And as you can see, I'm not playing with the numbers here. We're just rolling with whatever happened for the day. Okay, so we're back. PSU Fan. Playing Azusa, Lost But Sucking. And he gets one of the hands that, where Azusa doesn't appear to suck, it appears to be totally OP. Look at this, Insanity. And a Survival. Like, this game is practically over. There I have the Sunken Hollow that's no longer in the deck. It'd be much better as a basic island right here. So comes into play tapped. But my opponent's bricking on action. He has a survival, but all he's getting is lands. So I go ahead and I manage to slam a Humility with using 1 extra mana from Vault. I play Sensei's Divining Top, and he goes Boundless Realms. So if I don't counter that, I'd let that go. But if I don't counter that, I will never condescend to anything. So I need to counter it to even have a hope of making the card in my hand any good at all. I also had Worn Powerstone at this point in time, which may make it come back to the deck, but not now. He plays Kamal there, doing nothing. I suppose he could have played it with the Hall of the Bandit Lord and given it haste. So at this point, he kind of realizes that about nothing's going on. And what you don't see here is I actually cast the Vampiric Tutor. Then that's when he conceded, which I don't blame him for. All right, so Akiri Rin running Baral. I have to mulligan, but I mulligan to a fantastic hand against blue. Basically, any hand with land tax is fantastic against blue. He goes for his commander turn 2, and I am able to get some yummy mana off of that. So during my upkeep, I vamp into Scroll Rack, play the Scroll Rack, and ship away cards that I either can't cast or probably won't be casting, simply because I'm trying to put together a Tax Rack combo. I play land to see if I can trick him, and sure enough, he falls for it. I fetch, failing to locate anything, and at this point I only had 3, unfortunately. Would have been nice if I still had 4, but that's okay. Off they go, and I get rid of Jace as well because I don't necessarily need additional card drawing. And then I failed to find a land, which I was actually hoping to hit a land drop, so I have to ponder here. I was hoping to get a land down. I just didn't want to play one of the islands. So being 2 lands behind is a little troublesome, but that's okay. There's a land. All right, we're just going to Toxic Deluge his commander down, so his commander is now very expensive. Next turn, with tax on the stack, I'm going to activate Rack, shipping it all away and choosing how many cards I want, which I think is 1 this time. Yep. Druid Grim Monolith there is very nice. So we'll get try to play that. He remands it back to his hand, my hand, so I go ahead and just replay it. I don't figure at this point that there's much he can do that's going to be terrible to me, because even if you were to amnesia me, I would keep 2 cards and then rack to 4 and fill my hand back up. So he uses the opportunity I give him to play Talran. So I just do a gigantic rack again. Sometimes these games are just boilerplate. Once you get tax rack put together, it's all over. It's just a matter of how. So anyway, shuffle away some more land and play a Talisman, play Doretti, kill his Talran. He Pondrifies it in response, and then in response to that, he rapidly hybridizes it. So he gets a couple of guys, so he's going to be able to kill Doretti, but, I mean, who cares? He's also going to be able to go face, which is a little more important since I am at 11, not 21 like I would have been in the past. However, I've got something for that. It's called Breya. I discard. I have exactly 2 mana up, so it's very hard, and I also get Winter Orb down, so it's very hard for him to try to get out of this. I mean, he manages to hit me for 2. I untap Workshop, and during my upkeep, I tutor for Shackles, and with the handwriting on the wall, my opponent scoops it up. So that was a good game against Akira Rin. So here I'm playing against Tim Time Bomb, which I assume the guy's name is Tim. I think I would have named myself Tim Bomb as a pun, but that's just me, and I like puns. So his name is cool too. Anyway, so I get to play turn 2 Trinket Mage against this guy. He's playing some kind of commander that wants to hit me in the face, so we're going to do my best to prevent that from occurring. He gets a turn 2 4/3. That's so insane. Like, why did they even print stuff like that? I mean, how do you play control in any format other than this one when your opponent can play, when you can play like 4/3s for 2 mana? It's just gross. It's revolting, frankly. Anyway, so what I am doing is setting myself up to get a Batterskull going and protect it. And I decide that I don't want to take as much damage as Commander potentially could deal to me right here. So I am now able to start recouping my life. And here you can see exactly what I was talking about Batterskull, the way that it works. So I decide I'm going to go ahead and just trade off with his guy. Because it's a skull and I can just replay it. Or, in this case, I tutor for Tezzeret, and then I play... It's time. He's tapped out. Let's get the orb down. All right, I'm at 16. He gets Rancor, though. That throws my plans off by a bit. So I go ahead and fetch Mishra's Workshop, which comes into play tack, because his guy makes all of my non-basic lands and creatures come into play tapped. So I have to wait a turn, but finally I can equip Batterskull, and boom, 6 life back to me. Plus his attacker is shut down. He goes and gets Kozali Pride Mage, though, pumps his guy up, kills my thing, and hits me yet again. And I top deck bounce. Face, and he is down to 1 land. I get to break Winter Orb parity, and that is it. My opponent's had enough. Had he not scooped right here, I was going to untap 4 lands, cast Breya, and say go. And then from there, there's no beating that position if you are Tim Time Bomb. All right, so here I am playing Felipe _ Not to be confused with Felipe no _. All right, so this guy is Porphyros, and he displays the thing that gives him a free goblin with haste, so he gets to lead off with a little bit of damage. And here I am playing these stupid come to play tapped lands against red. Yuck. This is one of the reasons why they didn't end up staying in the deck long term. I do really like the Imperial Seal Brainstorm Stoneforge stuff I have going. Going to be able to get rid of that Karn Liberated as soon as I get a window. Why are we bugging out? Is this a bugged game? I hope not. Anyway, Down comes Stoneforge, so I don't have to fear the, and we're definitely getting Better Skull. You can see Better Skull is just putting in some serious work these days. So with a strong position, I go ahead and fetch Force of Will so I can protect myself from whatever might come. And Firecat Blitz is what's coming. I'm not going to force that though. It's just a bunch of damage, like 9 or something crazy. But had he slammed in with those, of course, I would have blocked with Better Skull and got 4 life back. Taken 2 damage, 3 damage, gotten 4 back. Would have been a losing proposition for him. So it actually only did 6 face. And since I have Better Skull, I do not care. So, oh, yummy. There's Icy Manipulator. However, Icy doesn't really do a lot for me right here. So I start digging so that I can set myself up. I do a lot of shenanigans with Brainstorm and tutors to go get a Sword of Fire and Ice in my hand. So he tries to kill all of my creatures and turn them into goblins. I don't want to have any of that because then I would have to take the time to equip Better Skull, which I don't want. Another coming to play tapped land, so stupid. And now I'm getting 6 life per turn and killing his creatures off. And my guy's pro red. He needs artifact removal. He needs Vandal Blast is what he needs. But he does not have Vandal Blast. He has Goblin Matron. So he tutors for a Krenko. However, Krenko just going to be crank slow this game. It's just not going to get him there. He actually uses Expedition Map to go get Care Keep, which is a strange choice. So I just slam my commander down. You can have your Krenko. The only thing you can't do, I'm hoping, is Vandal Blast. All right, so he makes a bunch of guys, which takes me from my 30 life back down. I've taken tons of damage, and I was at 30. It's not good for your opponent when that happens. And from here, I'm able to just Rift, and then 1, 2, 3, and 4 and 6 is 10. So that's 13 plus 2 from the sword is 15. My opponent dies. Very, very fast. Sword of Fire and Ice doing excellent things there. If it were still Necropotence, of course, it would not have done excellent things whatsoever against that guy. Instead, it made the game impossible for him to win. I like cards that do that. All right, so Jedi Rampage. Got it. Okay, Jedi Rampage here. Playing Doran. So Doran the Exploran over there. So he gets a Kazali Pride Mage. I can't do a lot to address the Pride Mage, but I can at least dig into his Murmuring Bosk there, hurt his mana. He's going to hurt mine back, but then I'll still be up. So I figured this was a good idea. He must have thought it was a good idea too, because with that on the stack, he scoops. That's funny. He was going to kill my Soul Ring and keep playing. When I killed his land, he decided he shouldn't keep playing. Works for me. All right, so here's some very aggressive commander, and I have Humility in my opening hand. And I have not... The other thing about having the extra equipment is Humility is just so much better. All right, so I go get an early mana drain because my hand is very weak, and luckily I find myself a land right there. So he's got some Bromat Courier. Oh. No, it's not a bro. It's a bow. Anyway, whatever. I'm going to end a turn Whir for 1 using Sensei's Divining Top to pay the 1 and get a Soul Ring and then take a peek at the top of my deck. On my turn, I can now cast Humility with Mana Drain backup. So I have taken some beatings, and I will continue to take some beatings, but we've slowed the amount of damage down quite a bit. This game is by no means over, though. So I am digging and topping and trying to do something. Find myself a Shackles. So get Shackles down right away. And he goes for Cranial Plating, and I feel that's just too risky to allow to stay in play. But it allows him to Demonic Tutor for Pithing Needle on Shackles, so I don't get to Shackles anything. So he is continuing to keep the pressure on. All right, so I can top here for free, basically. I'm going to go ahead and just hit a mana drop here and play Felwar Stone and do the best thing I can do right now, which is play Breya. Say go. My sad little Breya with no flyers and no abilities. It is okay, though. Like I said, the equipment tends to break the power of humility. So what we want is global effects and cards that break parity. So equipment breaks parity with humility. Um, and well, we've already gone over the cards that do the same with Wind Orb. So he actually tutored up a Sword of Fire and Ice as a response to my fetch for Breya. So I am now desperately looking for an answer, and all I can find is what's on top of my deck. It costs 7 mana. It is the big man himself, Karn. That is going to do it, but look at my life total. I am in so much trouble. All right, here's the big man. Let's get rid of that Sword of Fire and Ice. I am not going to swing because I'm going to try to protect him. And if he sends his whole team, I can't block the flyer, but I can block one of the others. I'll block the one that would give him a card if he were to answer Humility. All right, I get to take a card out of his hand. So we are working real hard to get an answer for all this stuff that's going on. Jitte. That'll do it. That'll do it. So I get Jitte. I get to smash with a 3/3. You can't block with Silas. I get 2 counters. Doesn't matter if you could. I get 2 counters. And then I can now sweep. I can take out his guys. And I would too right away, most likely. Just take these guys out. He's not going to be able to kill any Planeswalker. And then from there, of course, I was also going to play top. And then from there, hitting him with a sorted, Jitte'd up Breya under Humility with an active Karn and Tezzeret. That was enough for him. So awesome, awesome game. But it was quite close, actually. So who was that? That was Jedi Rampage, or was it Mages 24? Let's find out. Yeah, that was Mages 24. Okay, we don't need to say that again. Faf here. Playing Faf, who is running Zur, and he scoops to Breya without even trying. Such a shame, too, because his hand was just gas for days. This was such an absurd hand. Like, this is an anti-Zur hand to the max, almost. So we get first turn Soul Ring into map. He gets to take a turn, and then we get to tap 3, cast Chromatic Lantern. No, I probably would have sacked the map for Workshop. Played Shop, Chromatic Lantern, tap 2, cast Stoneforge. Go fetch most likely Feast and Famine, but I strongly would have considered fetching Fire Ice right there just to refill my hand. And then on the next turn, if he taps out, I can cast the sword off of the shop that I fetched, and if he doesn't, I can cheat it into play with Stoneforge. So it was a great hand that did not get to be played, and I now have a loss. And I don't remember what happened here. So this guy's playing Brago. Oh, right. So I kept a hand that seemed good, but as it turns out, as you'll see, just did almost nothing because Mana Drain into Strip Mine into Mana Vault. Oh my gosh. And look at this. If I would have drawn an island, I would have still won. All I needed right there was an island. I could have fixed my problems on the board. I could have fixed my vault. Instead, well, basically my opponent's going to try to abuse Brago. He doesn't really actually have any good ways to do it. But I will save you the trouble of the agony of watching me not draw island for turn after turn after turn after turn. Where my opponent's like, he's only got 2 cards in hand and and a top active, and he just finds nothing but mana, more mana, more mana. And I just cannot find 2 islands to win the game. Nothing to save my life. So I just scoop. I think when I finally found mana, it was just endless amounts of time passed. Like, it was so far, the game was so far gone, there was no coming back. I never found a second island. I only found 1, and because of his Strip Mine, I couldn't get 2 to steal Brago. So it was a terrible, terrible game. Oh, this game I had a great hand. My opponent just concedes right off the bat. That's unfortunate. Wignog now. And this guy is playing, another Baral. I've seen this guy a lot lately. Baral, I mean, not Wignog. I don't know what's going on, why that's the case, but I'm not super impressed by him. So my opponent makes a bit of a head scratcher. Well, he's developing mana to keep up with me, but he's not playing his commander out. So I am good with that. So still running the terrible come into play tapped lands here, but at least I can fetch them out. In this game, I have the luxury of being able to do that. And because I have tremendous advantage with Tezzeret, and because I can condescend whatever he might be doing, I'm just going to orb him, strip Tap for a ton of mana. Impulse, I find Shackles. So gross. Down comes the Shackles, and yeah, I'll take your guy right now since I can after I steal it, I can condescend for one because he'll make my instance cheaper. So opponent just gives up there, which I think was quite reasonable. It from his perspective, it probably looked like I had that all planned out, but you saw that it was some luck involved. Now this, I believe, was an insane, very long game. I'm playing against Niv Mizzix, and I wait on the Ponder Brainstorm because what I want to do is combine them. So I brainstorm main phase, figure out what I'm going to get rid of, ponder it away. Triple land, no thank you. I probably should have played Tomb though into Relic and done it. So that was an error. Oh no, I couldn't. I needed both. So my opponent's going to attempt to bounce my land and put a creature into play. I will let him bounce my land but not put a creature into play. And then he plays Jace. Maybe I should have rethought that, huh? All right, so what am I going to do about Jace? Well, I have some advantage on mana, so I'm going to go Orb and try to leave those cards stranded in his hand. Working my way towards Lotus, of course. I would like to get Doretti down, but so I'm hoping that the cards will put pressure on him and get him to tap out. He does, but he taps out for Ralzarek. This is bad news. I no longer have parity. I'm actually behind. So I need to get... I have so many things that I have to deal with. Jace is about to go ultimate, and Jace's ultimate is like a flipped Arayo. So I have to kill that, and because I'm so far behind, I decided the only way to do it is to do it with Winter Orb. It's bought me some time. I need to get like developed, and I can't really do that with Orb on the table. There's too much going on, so I'm gonna try to pressure Jace some more, but this is not looking good at all. He can bounce the Batterskull token. He does that. Preordains to trigger Niv Mizzix and kill my guys. I have nothing on board to deal with any of this. This is just totally awful. So I do basically the only thing I can do, which is try to stall. So he brainstorms in response, which gets some damage in, which certainly is relevant. And I'm able to play Doretti here and at least tick it up. So if he replays his commander, I've got it covered. I'm expecting him to go like Ral into Zur, but he chooses to deploy a bunch of artifact mana here, which isn't the worst, but is a little bit strange. And then just plays Ral. So we're going to kill that right away, I believe. Okay, I guess I don't know why oh, I see, because my guy was a Doretti token. I couldn't attack with him. I would have equipped Batterskull and attacked his commander, but I couldn't. Not with a Doretti token. So on his turn he plays his commander, and I go for Shackles, and in response he tries to draw 4 and kill do a lot of damage. I don't want him to draw 4 or do damage, so we stop that. And I have no reasonable target for Vindicate. I'm hoping that at the end of his turn I'm just going to pick up Batterskull and charge my Relic. Anyway, he plays Jace and uses it to bounce his dragon back to his hand, so I don't pick up Batterskull because I'm afraid he'll counter it on the way down. I change my mind on the play and just decide I'm going to equip it instead. So now I get to do massive amounts of damage to him, and with that in mind, I activate Doretti Ultimate and make triple Batterskull, a play I couldn't make before Batterskull was in, and holy smokes is that awesome. Anyway, my opponent does have an answer though. He's got Blasphemous Act, so I go ahead and sacrifice my commander who's going to die and the creature token from Doretti who is going to die. And now all I have is 4 Batterskulls. Unfortunately, 3 of them I can't pick up. So my opponent's ramping over there, but one of them I can. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to steal his guy, pick up Batterskull, and see what happens. I drew Cryptic Command, so that kind of changes my play. I decide I'm going to play it safe here. I just equip Trinket and Smash Face, and it works. Okay, so he's going to go Commander, Ophidian Eye. So white. This is very, very scary. He has 1 card in hand, and if this Ophidian Eye resolves, he wins the game. And the reason he wins the game is because Ophidian Eye resolves, he will sack Commander Sphere to draw a card. Whenever he draws a card, Whenever he draws a card, he can deal 1 to me. Whenever his creature deals damage to me, he can draw a card. So he will deal 1 to me, draw a card as a result, dealing 1 to me, drawing a card as a result. I will die immediately. So I have to counter this, and he cannot counter back, or the game just ends. He sacks his sphere in response. So so he sacks his sphere in response, which is good. He was digging for a counter, and if he had not been able, if he had found one and countered and got the eye down, I would not die right away. Instead, I would charge my relic and then try to vindicate his guy off the board before he could find a way to draw a card and proc it, which probably would have meant that I would have been okay, most likely. And then I would have to play Breya to put some pressure on the board, or maybe just attack for 10 or attack for 14, or I don't know. Anyway, what actually happens though is he finds nothing, he bricks, and I get to draw a card off the cryptic command while I'm about to, but he concedes in response on that play. Fantastic game, very, very cool. So, that's 2 very long games where we've done quite well against blue red, and it's very satisfying as well. So anyway, that was, who was that? I sort of lost track. Was that Zealand? I will find out in a minute, and we'll start the next game. It was, yes, Zealand. Good. Okay. So next game was Morpus, like a weird Morpheus with less morph. All right, so I have a very good starting hand. I decide I'm going to lead off this way, only because I figured I'd play Talisman turn 2 and Vamp, and I'd have more information if I did that. So that's the play. And I Vamp into Mana Drain, figuring I can, as opposed to going Breya here and potentially running into Negate, I will go, Jace here and running into Negate, I will go Breya. And then I've got Mana Drain protecting him, and I have a very nice play. My opponent has no answer for. If he doesn't have Swords of Plowshares here, he's just dead probably. Yep, he's dead. All right, so there's no reason to get greedy and tap out for Jace or something. I've got Mana Drain in hand, which means I have this game well in hand. So now we're going to Trinket into Mana Crypt into Jace. I'm going to go for it because if my opponent has an answer to Jace here, I get to attack him and untap all my lands and sit on a Mana Drain anyway, so I'm not too worried about it at this point in the game. He has no answer. He gives up. Totally awesome. Early wreckage. He's definitely Morpus and not Morpheus. I imagine Morpheus would have given me more of a challenge. All right, so Tim Time Bomb up again, TDB. And I've got a interesting hand, certainly. It's missing a lot of things, most of which were all mana. It's also missing some way to make up some card advantage. So why don't we go get land tax and do both? So I believe I still had 3 islands only. Yeah, it's still sitting on only 3 islands. Wish I had the 4th one for this game, of course. I kept wishing that and then eventually made it so. All right, so he gets a Loxodon out, and I rip Humility Red off the top. So why don't we just put that in a play? He duresses right after, taking Sword of Feast and Famine, which I cannot fathom at all why he would leave. I guess because of how good it is under Humility, but all right, I'm going to just play Shackles with a counterspell backup. Under Humility, he draws Umezawa's, against his Umezawa's Jitte. He had a Jitte in play. He played Jitte Duress. Just craziness. Leaving me with Shackles, I don't understand that one at all. So I guess he doesn't either, so he gives up right then there. Okay. So anyway, we've got a game here against Briscoe90 playing Freyalise. Freyalise is certainly a problem, and if he has a bunch of mana dorks here where he can work past land tax and I don't get to tax, that could be really icky for me. He doesn't. He has a walking ballista, but he does have Shaman of Forgotten Ways, which is crazy, crazy good. Still don't have 4 lands. However, I'm just going to take that there, Shaman. And what happened to the bottom of this? Why did it move around? Okay, there we go. Yep. So I am impulsing and letting him play some beaters. Not a problem yet. Developing mana base. And using Shaman of Forgotten Ways to play Breya with counter backup. Sitting on that lovely, lovely Deprive. I can, at some point, deprive something. And that looks like a good target. So we'll deprive pick up, I believe, an island so that I could potentially put it back. Shackles has already done its work. Now I just need to complete the nasty combo is find myself a scroll rack or a way to go get it. So I'm still not playing Humility. He plays Thran Dynamo, Elvish Visionary. I'm not going to counter any of that stuff. We will, however, disenchant the Dynamo. And with that, he gives up. I guess he was thinking he needed to get Freyalise out with the Dynamo, and it would be too many turns to wait, I suppose. So, I don't know. But yeah, that's it. If I play Humility, by the way, since this has a counter, it would actually become a 2-2, a 1-1 with a counter. So that's one reason why I was not playing Humility, in case you're wondering. The other was that I don't have 2 white. So 2 very good reasons not to be playing it. Also, my commander was doing great things. He was controlling the board. I didn't want to take that ability away from me. Humility is just there for the games where I need it, not for every game. All right, so here's a game against Krenko, and I got a very nice start. Look at that. Holy smokes. My next card is Land Tax. This is gorgeous. And he goes Soul Ring. I could actually play Land Mana Crypt and Vandal Blast him, but I want to tax more than I want to do that. So I'm going to go this route. Dump my whole hand with the plan of untapping Mana Vault during my upkeep. So we will do that. And now I just need him to fill my hand back up. And he obliges. Plays a creature. So are we at 3 or 4 islands yet? Still at 3. All right. Land Tax, you lovely, lovely card. Okay, so back to 5 cards in hand, and look at that card. Top decked a Humility. However, I can wait a turn because of Krenko's not ready to come down just yet. So we'll wait. Sure would be nice to get another island here. And now I can play Breya. And I don't care about Krenko just yet. So I can get rid of... so I play Breya and I get rid of the Vault. And I sit on Crypt. And my plan is to get rid of Crypt and Thopter. And from there, I can take over the game with either Humility or Tax. But I wanted to kill Crypt and Vault both so that there was no hope of my opponent beating me with those cards. I had tons of mana, so we didn't need it, thanks to the triple island that I fetched. Should have been 4. Should have been 4. At some point in this recording, it will be. All right, so here I am playing against Sharam the Hegemon, and he gets an absurd start. My opponent is playing, as it turns out, Combo. I figured he's Scrub because I was looking at his commander. It's not a Laro. Oh no, not Scrub. Combo. All right, Paradoxical Outcome. Mana Crypt, Mana Vault. Draw a bunch of cards. Play some more lands. Draw some more cards. Play a Dimer Signet. I got an island. Okay. I'm going to brainstorm and play land and say go. I don't even know, like, I want to play Stoneforge, but what do? I actually need to vamp. So my plan here is to hopefully Vampiric Tutor and then using Tomb, Vandal Blast him as quickly as possible. That's a plan that gets disturbed by Sharam there. I don't really want Sharam to come down, pressure me, and draw a card because it'll draw his Chromatic Star. So I've got to leak it, I think. All right, so during upkeep, I am going to vamp, but it's not going to be for Vandal Blast. I just can't afford. He has so much mana. I just cannot afford. I need to get in this game, and the only way I see myself doing that is by getting Tezzeret down, and the only way to do that is by mana draining something exceptionally strong. I also have a very good opportunity here to potentially play Stoneforge. But if I do that, then he can tech edge my untapped black, and I'm not willing to risk it, so I just don't. Goes Archmage, which is going to let him draw a card for every artifact he plays, and at the rate he's been playing artifacts, I deem that too dangerous. So I will play Thran Dynamo, I will play Tezzeret, I'm going to fetch myself a Mana Crypt, and I'm going to say go. I don't fetch for 4 because I want as many, I don't think it's going to come down to life this game, and I want as many options as possible. I probably could have got Vault, but I didn't. Anyway, he Mystical Tutored for Yawgmoth's Will. Holy smokes. Bauble is going to trigger. Paradoxical Outcomes triggering. He's going absolutely absurd ape crap on me, and he's about to kill me with Reservoir, except, thank goodness, I switched back to Condescend over the Delve cards. No Aether Flux for you. I put Impulse on top. He tutors again from the graveyard, plays a Mox Diamond. He fetches Mind's Desire, preordains into it. Holy crap, Storm Count is 12. And he's going to draw a card off Bobble, or two Bobbles, was it? He's got 8 cards in hand, and look at his mana situation. What can I do? Well, I can Impulse into Mystical Tutor. Does that help me? Maybe. I don't know. But we're going to Stoneforge, and we're going to go get Sword of Feast and Famine, and then I'm gonna try to slow down his ability to. Okay, pause. I'm gonna try to slow down his ability to storm out, and I also broke Winter Orb parity with. It was basically parity because of Crypt and Diamond over there. I have Crypt and Thran, so he's even on the Crypt, and then I've got 3 colors where he's got colored mana of his choice, so roughly even in terms of value. But with Sword of Feast and Famine threatening to generate bonus mana from me every turn while disrupting him, this is a much better position. And what I'm hoping is I can just stall him long enough to Mystical Tutor and win the game. So we'll see what happens. So during his upkeep, he vamps off of that diamond into Rebuild, allowing him to start the madness all over again. Storm count is 5, 6, 7, but he cannot quite Renegade Map. Urza's Bobble bobbles me, mortifies my guy, but he cannot quite. So if you're him, you're probably feeling pretty good here. He isn't able to storm me out just yet, but he killed my creature, so I'm not going to be able to Sword and Feast and Famine him, even if I replay it. But I Mystical at the end of his turn for a Vandal Blast. Oh, baby. Look at that. I have 3 mana floating. Tezzeret's going to untap Crypt and Dynamo, and I will tap them for a grand total of 8 mana, plus Sea Brass is 9. That's Vandal Blast, fully overloaded, and Winter Orb. Good game, sucker. I was getting completely wrecked by his awesome Storm deck until this turn where I immediately kill him, which is so awesome. That was super gratifying. Loved getting that win off. That was a lot of fun. All right, next game was Zahori. So we've had a very long game and a very combo-y game and won both of those. We've also had a very aggressive opponent. Here's an opponent playing Breya, and I lead off with the Blue Mage Killer land tax. Just so very good. And now you can see I have 4 islands, so it's even better in this version. This is the true version, finally, I believe. All right, so he's got some good stuff going. He's doing some good things over there. I don't want to discard, so I just don't tax yet. There will be more opportunities. All right, end step, I'm going to fetch, and then I'm going to map into Ancient Tomb and Mystical Tutor for Force of Will. However, he's got Mana Leak, so that's fine. I'm going to go for Rack. He has counter, and I let it go. I had tax rack combo, and I let it go. I let it go because it's just too dangerous to not do that there. So now I'm going to try yet another tutor, and we'll see what happens. All right, end of turn. Factor Fiction, and the card I tutored for, which was Force of Will, goes to my hand, and I am able to play a Jace. Finally, he goes for a Forbid, no buyback. I Stoic it with Force in hand. Jace immediately, finding a blue card, so now I have the ability to... I'm going to pause again. So now I have the ability to force without throwing away Forbid. I put... and I put Mind Twist on top. So here's the reason for that. If my opponent were to do something like, say, make some kind of really obnoxious play involving dropping some mana rocks out and, say, casting Mind Twist on me, and then I force, and he forces back, and he wins the counter war, or he just has the mana to counter it. He uses some, spell pierce or something like that. Then I wanted my top card to be, I've got card drawing. Tax Jace is a combo just as much as Tax Rack is, and it's part of the reason why I was okay with getting rid of the Scroll Rack, or allowing it to slide. But if my opponent were to Mind Twist me, I want my back play to be just as backbreaking for him as his play was for me. And then from there, he'll have an empty hand, I'll have an empty hand, but I'll have Jason tax and I'll win. Instead, he goes for Future Sight, and I'm really hoping he can't force, because that's one I can't address too easily. Fortunately, he does not have it, so we're going to get some more blue on the board and go all hands on deck, and he scoops when he has to put all of the cards in his hand. Actually, not on deck, but into his graveyard. So doing that from the position of 2 counter spells is just totally savage. And with Jace and everything else running, he was 100% right to scoop there. That game was over. But that was a fun game. Always cool to play the mirror match. So here I had a game against X Mobile 41. And there's a loss coming up. I know this video is long, but hopefully entertaining. I haven't done one like this in a very long time, so this guy's playing Send Triplets, and I just thought, it was kind of time to just kind of go through a day. All right, so Icy's in. So this is, I believe, the complete true list. I get a strip mine here, but I go ahead and strip during upkeep in case he has something like Teferi's Response. Okay, I get to Windswept Heath, and he Enlightened Tutors in response, which makes no sense, but okay. Fetching Soul Ring, so I am going to Merchant Scroll, and I'm going to go get, it doesn't matter, he concedes. So he's at no blue, he's showing no blue. So I could have gone for Force of Will, but that doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense there, I don't think. So I think I would have actually gone for Mana Drain, but I don't know, maybe I could have gone for Force. So if I'd gone for Force and Force the Soul Ring, then over the next couple of turns, the next turn I get just play a regular land and play sort of Fire and Ice. The following turn I play Breya, and then I start hitting him and recouping all the cards. So maybe that would have been the play. I was thinking about it, but by the time I figured it out, he had given up. Another option there was just to go get, not Force of Will, but say Mystical Tutor, and then Mystical Tutor for a disenchant, and then keep Jace in my hand that way, which might have been the play. So here I am playing against Zyra Arian. And I don't have a lot to say about the commander other than it's terrible. But my opponent has a good start with Mana Development and Skull Clamp, and that's never bad. I get Dark Confidant down, but he then goes crazy. Oracle into a bounce land, which is like the best thing you can do, into another land. I get to draw 1 card off Dark Confidant, but I am definitely behind. He then plays Farhaven Elf, which gets him even more mana, and plays a land off the top. Clamps the Elf, I believe. Oh, goes for Olivia Voldurin, actually. I've got to try to deal with everything going on, so I teaching in the Mystical Tutor, and then luck out by finding a Mana Drain. All right, so my opponent, I knew my opponent was going to kill Dark Confidant, but there really wasn't a tremendous amount I could do there. So he's going for Gaia's Anthem, and because of humility, I do not want him to have that. He plays Scute Mob, which is a little concerning, but then he eats it right away, which is a little disconcerting. I'm not quite sure why you would sack a 6/6 who becomes an 11/11, but okay. All right, so anyway, into my opponent's turn, I fetch Toxic Deluge and clear the board. As it turns out, killing the creature was actually the right play for him. And with just the right amount of mana, we are going for Winter Orb. This isn't great, though. Remember, he has a Nevinyrral's Disc in hand and inexplicably doesn't play it. So I am going to play Humility here. I'm not sure what's going on. He plays Ruinous Path and kills Tezzeret, though. So I play Umezawa's Jitte. All right, so he finally plays the Disc. And I have Deprived Mana, which is really good. And then he uses Disc before my turn. Another madness, crazy play. So he does it so that he can play Bloodbraid Elf. And he Bloodbraids into this useless thing. So not even any good for him. So I just deprive the Elf because I am a little low in life. Play Yawgmoth's Will. And I miscalculated. I thought for some reason I was going to play Tezzeret here. But I do at least get Soul Ring into Winter Orb. So now we're just playing a delay game. He plays a Acidic Slime, and I decide I need to break the orb. So I Cryptic and bounce the orb so I can get all my mana back. Now we just get to twist away his hand, play a Winter Orb, and play land tax. This turn is crazy. So I've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 lands pinned down over there. All right, so we get to start taxing. And yet again, how many games do I actually land tax? So I'm going to break Winter Orb parity once again. I vamp for Stoneforge into Sword of Feast and Famine, sitting on 2 blue for a muddle. Opponent plays a card that will help him, but not enough. I get to tax 1 last card into my hand, play it, play sword, equip, smash. Oh my goodness. What a great board position to be in. We'll now play Breya. And I should have muddled there, transmuted it into mana drain probably, but I don't for whatever reason. All right, so he's got his guy. Oh, because I was planning on going to get Scroll Rack, that's why. And so I do. Tax Rack running. I'm looking for a blue card for Force of Will, and I find it. So I'm going to move the sword over to the commander so that I can do a little more damage. Failing to remember that the picture of wings on Zyra means it flies. Of course, so often we see cards with pictures of wings that don't fly that I'm just conditioned not even to think about it and completely ignore that fact. So I threw away a token for no reason at all. No big deal, though. He's not coming back from this. Look at that. That is so savage. Like Winter Orb doing so much work there. What a great card for the format, because how horrible it would be if my opponent could ramp up and then just, started bashing me around the head with like, endless barrage of like Eldrazi or something. It just doesn't sound very fun to me at all. So there we go. Another game against Land Toast 1. So we are moving towards the end game here. I lost this game against Red at Sox. Playing Duretti. Look how much fun this is. So remember the first game where my opponent did something utterly abusive on turn 1 and there was just simply no answer for it? Well, unfortunately here I had to mulligan, and look at my opponent doing something utterly degenerate and abusive. And if this were Island, I would be fine, but it's not. So game over. He has Duretti. This game is over. I can do nothing, and he will just do whatever he wants. Drawing, whatever he wants, doing whatever he wants. Yeah, I still don't draw land. I mean, maybe I could have came out of it somehow. I don't see how, honestly. There's pretty much almost nothing. I would have had to have drawn an island here, play the island, mana drain, draw another land, play it, play my commander, use the mana from mana drain to try to shrink Duretti or do something. Maybe play Shackles. I don't know. It was basically hopeless. So Duretti, another one of those cards that it's a terrible commander when you can't play him using broken mana. It's just not a good commander. But when you can, it's too good. Like, the card is too good. It's not fun to play against. It's actually probably on my list of commanders I don't want to play against ever because they're no fun to play against. Duretti is right up at the top because the strategy with Duretti is very simple. If you build a Duretti deck, you have said that you will mulligan until you can cheat Duretti into play. If your opening hand cannot cheat Duretti into play, mulligan. And so basically what you have is a stupid linear deck that says I'm going to try to cheat Duretti out. You have to counter me or the game's over. And frequently the game's over. The rest of the time I counter him and I win. And that seems like pretty much the dumbest thing you could ever possibly hear of, because there's nothing else to the card. Anyway, so my opponent's playing Edric, gets a garbage. I find out I can tell his deck is a garbage Edric deck because he leads off with this 1/1 flyer, no abilities. Even in a 30 life format, that's just not doing enough. However, my opponent realizes that and clamps it. That's unfortunate. So I'm kind of digging. My mana isn't all that great. I did get a Dark Confidant rolling, though. My opponent's mana is even worse than mine, so we'll put some pressure on him. He rapidly hybridizes Confident. I'm not going to fight over that. A 3/3 will block Edric, so he plays Soul Ring. I'm not going to fight over that. I want a fact or fiction. I have things I want to do. If my opponent's going to counter this, then I get Jace. He does not. So I need mana. And Skull Clamp, or Better Skull's great. Another potential gigantic blocker. So main phase, I go for Fabricate. My opponent memory lapses it. I'm not going to deprive that. Nothing he does is going to be something I fight over, unless what he does potentially wins the game. Fabricate again. Let's try again. All right, there's a Crypt. I'll leave the Crypt in my hand. He goes for Venser, which I think is super threatening, and I deprive, which is very scary because if he had countered back, I would have been in a very bad spot. He could have bounced 2 lands or a land and the green creature. So if he would have resolved the Venser, he could have bounced the token, and then he would have played Edric and started hitting me and drawing cards. As it is, he wasn't able to win that counter war, and I drew a mana drain following. So we're going to go for Jace, pushing it out with drain, bouncing Edric for safety, and saying go, just in case. He gets Glen Elendra here, clamps it, which is normally pretty backbreaking, but I have active Jace. I have swords, but no white. All right, so there's Talisman off the mana drain mana, so we'll go face again. I'm feeling a lot more comfortable now. I probably should have just slammed the Batter Skull, but I just wanted to. I didn't want to fiddle around with this Glen, so I'm going to counter. He plays Chasm Skulker, which does absolutely nothing. So I will plus Jace up, tucking a Witness to the bottom. Go face, because I'm planning on dealing with that guy. Unfortunately, I have to waste a Demonic Tutor on a source of white, or no, I decide to get the ready. So I get the ready and go to kill his guy, and he unsummons it. So I don't sack the artifact. That's the nice thing about Duretti too. You don't have to sack the artifact. You can wait and see if they have a trick first. So realizing Skulker's probably not getting anywhere against a Jace and a Duretti, he just clamps it. Says go, has no other play. I'm not sure why he didn't play Edric there, but okay. I find some white, so we'll start making guys and pushing, and this game's basically over. So I try for he has a counter, I can counter back plus Force of Will, but it's a snake, so I actually have to force the snake. I was thinking, I would muddle whatever his counter spell was and then Force of Will whatever his next play was, but I had to do it backwards. So I forced the snake, and that leaves me in the position where I can muddle his next play if it's not a creature or a permanent. And then I can Swords to Plowshares if it is a creature. So I was in a great spot there. We're going to start smashing him with the Germ. Very, very, very quickly actually ending the game. And between the two Planeswalkers, my opponent realizes there's no coming back from that. So fair enough. I still kind of heartburned in that game after the loss to Duretti, although it was off a triple mulligan and missing an island. But still, it's just a little, and he got an absurd draw, but I was still a little heartburned over it, so picking up some wins made me feel pretty good again. Anyway, so my opponent leads off with Crop Sigil, which is a very good card, I think. Anyway, so when I have to Vampiric into Crypt for Trinket Mage for Soul Ring. Opponent mills off Reclamation Sage, so he's building up some really nice targets there. And I go ahead and Mystical Teachings for Force of Will, leaving the scroll in my hand because I'd rather force with the scroll than force with the teachings. I could have scrolled for force and forced with teachings, or teachings for force and forced with scroll, so I decided that's the better option because teachings is flash backable. Anyway, I am not hitting much useful here. Oh, are we going to bug? Tell me we're not bugging. We haven't had a bug all day. I'd be really excited if that wasn't the case. But it looks like... yeah, it probably is. Anyway, my opponent concedes at some point. I get Orb down, I think. Yeah, I don't remember how. I don't know what play happened here, but basically there was a turn where, yeah, I think I get Orb down. He makes a play. I force it. On my turn, I actually draw a land that produces blue. Then I'm sitting on a counter spell, and the turn after that, I drew Sword of Fire and Ice. So I slam Sword of Fire. So I tithe at the end of his turn, play a land, untap the land I tithe with, play a land. So I've got 3 mana and these cards. Draw Sword of Fire and Ice, play it, equip it, smash, have a counter spell to counter his next play, and then he scoops. Is I think how that game played out, but unfortunately, so the bug, the magic bug is not entirely gone, the replay bug. So that's scary. I was actually starting to get hopeful. All right, so this guy playing Janara, I put Tomb on top since I have the Force of Will, and La Rabia here just scoops. I don't know, doesn't want to play against such a fast start maybe, or I'm not sure why. Actually, as you saw, my hand really wasn't that good. It was actually pretty bad, but I'll take it. All right, Porphyros. I have a good hand against most people, but not against Porphyros. Fortunately, Condescend shows up, so if he doesn't kill Soaring, and he doesn't. Oh, and then Dark Confidant. The Spire of Industry is doing a lot for me. All right, so my opponent's got this interesting piece of equipment that creates creatures, and then he plays a hasted guy that bounces back to his hand as dash. So he gets to make a free creature, and now that he's got that creature, he can equip it and start making creatures into creatures into creatures. So for my turn, I draw Tithe and a land. So I'm just going to play the land. I cast Deck Fade, take his guy with 1 mana floating, and make my own token. He's kind of sad about this, actually. Now I get to tithe some more cards into my hand. So I'm playing against a Porphyro's deck with an active Dark Confidant. Seems a little bit risky, but, you know, hey. All right, so he goes Solemn Simulacrum. I get to condescend that, and I condescend into Grim and a Stoneforge. I decide is the way to go. And I Stoneforge into Batter Skull. I go get this card so much these days. So good. So I play my mana. I do it this way. I use the Grim, and I did everything the way I did it, so that if in an emergency, if he makes a play here that really threatens me, I can Mystical Teachings for Force of Will and Force with the Future Sight. He plays Krenko. Krenko does not threaten me, so I'm just going to untap Grim. Because I have the, okay, so I Confidanted into Swords of Plowshares. I was planning the Mystical Teachings up Swords, but oh no, I did. I'm sorry. I did Mystical Teachings up Swords. So I Teachings up Swords, and then I drew Feast and Famine, which is so insane. So now I get Batter Skull down, Feast and Famine, equip, smash, take a card out of his hand, untap, and we're done for the turn. And I actually misplayed here. I was thinking I'd untap Grim, but the correct play, well, I don't know if it was a misplay. So I could have played my commander here, but my thinking was actually it wasn't. It was an intentional misplay. So my thinking was, for tempo purposes, the right play here was Breya. But I mean, I've got this game won, and the way that he can get out of this would be Vandal Blast, right? So or he could play the Living Death for artifacts, which would be super scary because of Solemn and Mere Battlesphere over there. Anyway, not much I could do about that. But if he had Vandal Blast or the Living Death for artifacts, then what I did not want to play Breya, because Breya would die too and get more expensive. But what I did want to do is be able to pick up my Batter Skull in response. So that was actually why I did not play it there. And really, it would have just been a win more play anyhow, because from here, if he did nothing at the end of his turn, I get to untap Grim, and on the next turn, I get to play Breya, attack with a million guys, and then 3, 6, 7, 8 mana, I can deal 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. I can deal 12 to him just with Breya alone. So this actually was the correct play. Lastly, so that was the very last game of the evening. And if you stuck around for all this, awesome. If not, that's cool too. Hopefully, at least you enjoyed the games that you saw. So I put Vandal Blast on top because, in the early game, I want to have an answer for Soul Ring. I don't see a Soul Ring, so I go ahead and shuffle it away and draw a Crucible of Worlds. So we're going to get that down. And we're going to take maximum advantage of that. Oh, excuse me. So whenever his creature becomes tapped, I lose a life and he gains a life. But look at this. Turn 3, yet again, battering skulls for me on my behalf. So I go ahead and muddle. I figure my board position's pretty good here. So whenever I play a non-creature spell, I'm going to lose life and he's going to gain life. I get drain life for 2. All right. But I've got Batter Skull who drain lives for 4. So, he used to. My opponent plays Dead Weight on it. So it is now a 2/2. All right. Well, we're going to just keep. I have Crucible over here. Again, breaking Winter Orb parity by giving me a land drop every turn. My opponent manages to kill my guy, my Batter Skull token, not the skull itself. So I just, I have to take some damage here. I use Soul Ring, cast Tezzeret. I'm losing all kinds of life, actually not taking damage. And I fetch for 4 the ultimate parity breaker, Icy Manip. So I'm going to take some damage, and it's going to be slow, but it's going to be oh so worth it. All right, so I take even more damage. He pumps up his guy, hits me for a ton. Finally, though, at the end of his turn, I fetch, and with exactly 4 mana, tap on my Winter Orb, pick up a Batter Skull, untap everything. Down comes Orb, super, super cheap, taking even more life lost. And then I realized I could have done something about that, because I was thinking it was every spell I played, and then I realized after the fact that it's only non-creatures. Down comes Breya with exactly 3 mana, which means 1 to tap my Orb and 2 to sack if I need to. All right, so we're going to tap Orb Be Gone, and that is just such a beautiful combo. And I move over, and Breya becomes this gigantic, scary, life-linking thing. We're mashing in for a ton of damage, and with the handwriting on the wall, my opponent gives up. What's really nice here is if I had to, in a pinch, if my opponent, for example, were to play Dust to Dust or something like that and exile 2 artifacts, for example, he might have attempted to exile Batterskull and I don't know, Winter Orb perhaps. Well, anyway, I could 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I could fetch, Force of Will, Force with probably Factor Fiction, maybe DAC, and then tap the Winter Orb and continue to advance forward with my abusive tactics. So he would not have been able to get out of this. So even though he scooped here a little early, maybe it was basically over. And that's all I've got. I was just happy that you got to see the icy manipulations of Winter Orb, a combo that you used to see over 20 years ago somewhat frequently. And if you're not familiar and interested, you can look up Zach Dolan's deck. Zach Dolan is the first world champion, and he was playing, then that was back when Vintage was Type 2. So imagine Mox's Lotus, that's all Type 2. There was no Type 2, it was just one format. So anyway, his world champion deck had one Icy Manipulator, one Winter Orb. He also had one Howling Mine that he could tap with Icy and do nasty things that way. But yeah, if you get a chance, check out Zach Dolan's deck. And Zach Dolan's deck was commemorated in a deck you could buy that had all of the cards in it, but it had special gold borders, so you couldn't actually play them, but you could just get the feel for what it was like to play with the World Champions deck. He also had a card made called 1995 World Champions. You can look that up if you're interested. There's only one in the world, and in Vintage, it is, I believe, playable by the one person who owns it, whomever that may be. But my point is, so Zach Dolan featured this specific combo, the one I just pulled off, in his deck, and that was the argument I made. The fact that he had that deck and that they commemorated it by making, these decks you could buy. And my argument to Mark Rosewater was that by taking away the ability to turn Winter Orb off by tapping it, they were hosing a fundamental combo in the first World Championship deck. And if I were to buy Zach Dolan's commemorative deck now and didn't know any better, I would be playing it wrong for that reason. And I think it was actually that argument that may have been the one that made my case well enough to get Orb fixed, but ultimately I don't know. And I assume I probably wasn't the only one. I imagine there were probably lots of people making the argument, and it's quite possible my voice was just one amongst many and didn't stand out to him at all. But that was the argument, if you're wondering, of what I said to Mark Rosewater, the one and only time I have ever used Twitter. And with that, I am done with this exceptionally long video, but hopefully entertaining. You got to see what it looks like when I lose. It usually looks like my opponent doing something on turn 1 that's basically unstoppable with the hand that I have. And that's effectively the games that I lose. And fast mana will not solve all of it. Certainly if they were to do something about fast mana, like somebody was asking on my channel, it would hurt me as much as it helps me, maybe hurt me more than it helps me, because this deck, as you saw, goes and gets fast mana routinely, and losing that capability is going to be very, 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 very painful. But on the other hand, it also wouldn't do anything about a first turn Sarah Avenger, so I don't know. But on the other hand, maybe it will be more fair and therefore more interesting and force me to work a little harder to do what I do. And I suppose that could be good for the health of the format. It certainly hurts Storm decks, which I don't mind at all. I do not like combo unless it's, I like incremental combos like Scroll Rack Tax. I don't like just stupid like insta-kill combos or, gigantic whatchamacallit, storm combos. I do not like those at all. And I will not go any further into into the one time I did play Storm in this format in this video, but at some point I will talk about it for those interested, simply because Brian and I were instrumental in getting, the other thing that we affected is we're instrumental in getting Grizzle banned, and I will go through that. I don't know if I've talked about that before, but at some point that'll come up too. And you can see the one exception to when I did play Storm with the specific intent of trying to get the deck I was playing banned. I made it as broken as possible just to get it banned. But anyway, that's another story for another time. So that's all I've got now. I hope you enjoyed these games and how the deck has been progressing slowly but surely, moving towards what will hopefully be the most interesting version possible. Although I do see a lot of potential changes on the horizon if Wizards decides that they want to do something more than just change the life. And they said that they are going to, but we don't know yet if that's going to be something with the ban list or if that's going to be something with, leagues only, or who knows? Who knows? So we'll see, but stay tuned to the channel. And if changes do happen, I promise I will do everything I can to continue to play the type of strategy I like. Hopefully they won't completely cut my legs out from under me, and then we'll see what happens. So that's all I've got. There's my son. He's very cute. And thank you for watching. I'll see you next time.